Welcome to the HU Move Makers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Welcome to the HU Move Maker podcast, where we highlight Howard trailblazers and move makers. Today, we have a pioneer. We got a unicorn. We got a captain. Air Force. I mean, this woman's in the Air Force. She got awards, Meritorious Service Medal, Air Force Commendation Medal, from the School of Sea to the Air Force. That's an interesting story.
It is. It is probably not what you think it is. I think a lot of...
Wait. Turkey, Botswana. I only heard some of them things on CNN. Korea, diversity recruiter for the Gold Bar program. She is the first Black woman to be a member of the Thunderbirds, which is, I guess they do air demonstrations. So I guess they're those people that you see at the air shows. I hope I'm getting that right. But this is Captain Remoshay R. Nelson. And I can't forget that she's a member of Alpha Chapter, Delta Sigma Theta. So it's only fitting that she be doing something that's amazing. So,
wow.
What were you saying?
No, I was just saying, I know a lot of people say School of Communications, but it's probably not what you think it is. Although I was a speech communications major, It's actually speech pathology. It is not like public speaking or public relations, which is what I do now.
Oh, okay.
It's the correct title. It's just not what people think it is.
Okay. So which school were you in at Howard?
I was at School of C.
Oh, School of C. Okay.
Yeah.
School of C, stand up. So I know that Captain, do I call you Captain?
Whatever you want to call me. I have multiple names. My first name
y'all
is
ain't coming for me.
Remoshay.
Y'all not coming for me. I know Captain Nelson has limited time, so I want to get to the poignant questions today. So Captain Nelson, what is it like to be a member of the Thunderbirds, knowing that you are the first Black woman to be in that? You know, what is that like?
I think it's overall a really, really great experience. The Squadron has been a great experience thus far. Very different. I think like everyone in 2020, the world has been different than what we expected to be. And so I've had a great time. We have about 130 people in the Squadron that come from different walks of life from the Air Force. And essentially what we do is we're a representation of what the Air Force is all about. So the opportunity to be an officer on the team, to be a Black woman, to go out eventually when we get there to air shows, or just be in a public space where young Black girls can potentially see themselves doing something like I'm doing is an absolute honor. So I enjoy my job. I enjoy what I'm doing. And I hope to continue or inspire, at least one girl going forward in my position.
Man, do you have to pinch yourself? I mean, was this a goal of yours to be in this position, or like, how did this happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So you talked about a little bit about my career. I actually did not think I would be a Thunderbird at all. I wanted to be in the Air Force. My goal was really to work overseas. So out of the country, I traveled extensively. I was actually looking to get out of the Air Force after working in South Korea. And then I saw the ad for the Thunderbirds. And initially I was like, I don't know if they will pick me. What I envisioned the Thunderbirds were in my mind and what they are two completely different things. So after doing my research, I'm like, you know what, this will be a great job. So I put my name in the hat and they selected me. So it was a pretty nice, I think.
What was that interview process like? That seems rigorous. I mean,
it is pretty extensive. So it's 3 different portions. So the first one is the application portion. My application was about 17 pages in total. So I had
17 pages. Damn.
17 pages, a letter of interest, letter of recommendation, submit my records. It was pretty extensive. And then what they'll do is review all of the applications, and they will select the top 3 to 5, and then they will invite you out to come and interview in person.
How many applicants are we talking here?
It just depends on the position. I think there were probably about, I don't know. It depends on the position. I know the pilot, I don't know how many were for my position. I know we just put out applicants for our pilots, and there were like 20 or so applicants out there.
Wow. So do you
But
have
that's
to,
for one officer position.
and can you just explain to the people what is your position? What does that entail?
Yeah, so I'm the public affairs officer, so I'm responsible for the publicity, the marketing, and the recruiting efforts of the team. So my team oversees like our social media. We set up all of our media engagements, our outreach events, and we're just responsible for like the face of the Thunderbirds and what we do and who we engage with.
Wow. So the face of the Thunderbird. So who are you reaching out to when you're doing these press runs or press releases? Are you going on the radio? Like who are you talking to?
So it really just depends. So normally, so we just did quite a few flyovers. It was a Air Force and Navy initiative called America Strong. Essentially, what we did was fly over hospitals as a salute to individuals who are or on the front lines of COVID-19, either affected by it or responding to it. And so we were targeting media outlets just to bring awareness. And then we also reached out to quite a few like social influencers. During the air show season, we typically always have media at our air shows. So we do interviews every time we arrive in a city. And then we reach out to influencers or people we consider like hometown heroes to give them a media flight so they can actually ride in the back of our F-16s.
Really?
Yeah, we do media flights.
Damn. Wait. So
Yeah,
like civilians can get in there?
civilians can get in there. It just
And then
really
y'all go
depends.
like upside down and stuff?
We fly our demonstration profile. So yes,
Damn. They probably got to sign hella waivers for that.
they do. It's a pretty rigorous process. You have to get training. You have to have a medical profile. We have
Yo,
to make sure
so
that you're
homecoming, you got to get it at homecoming. Yo, if you get that at homecoming, that'd be crazy.
get what at homecoming.
Yo, get the Thunderbirds to fly over the game at homecoming.
That would be dope. Well,
That
the
would be
question
dope.
is there a homecoming this year? Probably not.
Maybe not, but just off the strength, that might be everybody's right. Like, just put it on Zoom, and we could all watch that. Like, that would be kind of cool,
That would be dope.
especially knowing that you went to Howard.
Yes.
So it would
We
be
flew over Howard during our DC flyover.
really.
Yeah, we did.
Damn. So, what was it like? I mean, because I was on social media just looking at my timeline, and I see this black woman in this plane flying over cities and just flying over planet Earth. So I'm like, damn, who is this? Then I'm getting all of these messages like repost this, repost that. I'm like, who is this? And I'm like, man, this girl went to Howard. Of course she did. Like, what was that? What was the response like? You know, for you probably looked at it as just another day in the, day at work. But I feel like black internet went crazy when they saw that.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So when I was selected for the job, they pretty much told me like, hey, I don't think we ever had like another black female officer on the team. And I'm just like, okay, great. And I didn't think much of it, but I knew that I had a responsibility, like going into this position, which is very public, to just kind of be out there and showcase who I am, what I'm all about, what the Air Force is about. And then I didn't really talk about the fact that I was in this position wasn't necessarily released. I was just doing my job. And then, like you said, it was a normal day for the Thunderbirds, and we were doing flyovers. I think what happened for me, or at least I don't know which one blew up first. So it was one or two. So it was definitely the flyover over DC, Atlanta, and Baltimore. So I know that someone wanted to profile me and do an article. So I did an interview, and that went pretty crazy. I got a lot of attention from that. And then the mayor of Atlanta posted me. She just said, hey, I'm proud of you, Soror. And then
Keisha was on it. Keisha was gonna do that.
Keisha always on it. Thank you, Soror. If you're watching this, thank you. But it was it was overwhelming, I think. And then after that happened, everyone just started reaching out to me. It was a bit overwhelming, I will say.
Damn, that's nuts, man. So now you're like how does that pressure feel? Because now it's like, man, I was just doing my job. Now, you're like the symbol of black excellence in the Air Force. You know what I mean? Like, what does that feel like every day you put your shoes on and you walk to work, I mean, people are following you. You know, I started just Googling you right then. I'm like, damn, like, how do you go from Howard to doing this? I mean, what does that pressure feel like on a day-to-day basis?
It's definitely a lot of pressure. I think, like all of us, when you get in a space that people of color are not used to being in, you have to self-evaluate a lot, right? You want to make sure that you're doing your best. But also, too, I've been extremely lucky because I've had some amazing mentors who kind of keep me sane. I put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. Mm-hmm. I welcome the pressure because for me, it's motivation to just go out and do the best that I can. But also, too, realizing, like, and I know we were talking earlier about, like, when we were talking about things we would discuss, but one of the things I always put a lot of pressure on myself is, like, not to fail or make mistakes, but I've learned along the way that it's okay to do so. And so I kind of learned how to balance, because I used to be extremely hard on myself, pushing myself just to be, like, perfect. But that is no longer my goal. It's really just progress. And so I am thankful to be in the position. I welcome the pressure because it pushes me to be the best.
Wow.
And I hope that I can be an example for someone else to come either behind me or do whatever route they want and to be better than where I am or who I am.
That's dope, man. Talk to me about the mentors. I mean, I would imagine that you probably had to have some mentors that probably didn't look like you. Is that the case?
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
Like what? Because you hear stories about the Army, the Air Force. You hear this racist. I mean, you hear everything is racist, right?
Yeah.
But you hear like these crazy stories of discrimination.
Yes.
I couldn't imagine what it's like as a Black woman. You know, what would make somebody want to mentor you in such a, because the Air Force is like, who's going to police the Air Force to make sure that they following, that they're socially conscious and all of this? Because a lot of guys, they might not even consider themselves racist, but they're like, or even sexist. They like, I don't want to be in the foxhole with no woman. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I don't want to be doing this with no woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are some things that you had to overcome to get to where you are? Not just, I don't know. I mean, mentally, because you got your own thoughts that probably creep in, but even just from in reality, you know, like, what are some things you had to overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll answer the first question regarding my mentors. So my mentors, most of them look like me. I was extremely lucky. And I say I was lucky because when I came into the Air Force, my first supervisor was a Black man. And when I met with him,
Colin Powell?
No, it was not Colin Powell.
Okay.
It wasn't Colin Powell. It wasn't Colin Powell. I wish I knew him. I wish I knew him. No, it's Tony Richardson. His name is Tony Richardson. And it was funny because he is from Mississippi. He drove a Caprice. He also had an Audi with like rims on them. And when he rolled up, like he rolled Reese, and he's like, "What's up? You Lieutenant Nelson?" I'm like, "Yeah." He was like, "Come on, like, are you Tony?" Like, I did not expect him to be who he was. Like, he definitely was a lot different. But it's funny because I think there's this perception, at least some people, right? It's very, I would say it was difficult for me to transition from Howard to be in this predominantly Black space and then go into just the military where I was a minority.
So I heard they be busting your ass. I heard they bust your ass like them first, like they see what you made of. Like from
they do.
Like,
they
man,
do.
I'd have been quit.
They do.
Like, what? I'm out. So yeah, what happened?
No. No, I was just extremely to just really be myself, because you have people who come in and they feel like they have to assimilate and be someone else or please someone else. And he just told me, like, hey, be who you are. Either you're going to be who you are or try to be who they want you to be. If you be who you are, you will be, one, you're good enough, but make sure you just know your stuff, right? Like, know your shit. Like, if you come to the table, know what you're talking about. And so for me, I've always focused on honing my craft, and I've selected mentors who can help me do that in multiple ways, not just like my main job, public affairs, being a leader, dealing with multiple things in the Air Force. I just always tried to find someone I could reach out to who either went the same path as me or could just provide some advice to me. And then some of the things I struggled with, I had to overcome. I tell people this all the time. I think really it's just those voices in the back of your head, right? And so the doubt, self-doubt was a big one for me. Am I good enough? You know that there are not a lot of people. And I think it was intimidating coming in. You're just young, you're hungry, you want to get out there, but you're no longer in a comfortable space. And so I doubted myself a lot, but I was thankful because I had Tony on, at least for my first time, who really just when I did something wrong to like continuously get better.
This episode is sponsored by homecoming@howard.com, the #1 homecoming event website for alumni and friends. Created by Howard alumni for alumni and friends. Subscribe now at www.homecoming@howard.com and never miss an update. I've watched enough movies to know that when you come into the Air Force or military or whatever, it's not like your typical orientation for jobs. You know, they yelling at you, they in your face, trying to make you break. I mean, did you have breaking points where you wanted to give up and, you know, just break down and just walk away from it?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to as far as people like getting your face and yelling is mostly like the boot camp phase.
Yeah.
And it's what people go through. And essentially that training is built for, hey, to take whoever you are as an individual, society, all these habits you have, to break them, understand the military organization, instill discipline into this individual, and understand the military way, right? That's the goal of that.
Okay.
It's kind of like, almost like very similar somewhat to a pledging process where it's like, hey, I need you to focus on this, come together, bond with your sorority sisters or your line brothers, and you go through this process that's just going to make you better. You're going to come out a new person or have a new addition to who you already were, right? And so once you're past that, I did that in college, actually. So it was, I think, my sophomore year, we had to go to training. I was in ROTC. So I went to Alabama. We did training for like 5 weeks. It was pretty crazy. So once I was done with that, I went back to Howard and I kept living my life. How
was it going back and forth from Howard to that? Because Howard is like the utopia of Black folks. Yes. And then you got to go to this other place, probably in this, you off the grid. Nobody can hear your cries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going to this whole other world. And you're going there seemingly, I mean, are you doing that once a month? Is that every other week? Like, how was that going?
Yeah, no, it's pretty easy. So the way ROTC works at Howard is you have a normal school schedule like everyone else, classes and stuff like that, but you have certain classes that are specific for ROTC. So on Thursdays, you have to go to leadership lab. I think there's a class in the afternoon. You have to go to PT 2 times a week or something like that. But the training was in the summer. So you left, you were gone, and then either you did internships, you did some type of internship with the Air Force, or study abroad. I studied abroad the summer before my senior year. So whatever you want to do, as long as you completed your requirements at Howard, you were good. But you had to go to the boot camp, which was like 5 weeks in the summer. And it was pretty, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like it was that tough at all because they prepare you through your ROTC classes. And so someone waking you up at 4 o'clock in the morning is not that bad. Like, wake up, get up, do this.
Oh, okay. So it's easy. Okay. What was I thinking? I should have.
I'm not saying that it was easy. It's just not as tough as I thought it would be. Like, I think a lot of people is like, it's not impossible. A lot of people do it all the time. At least for the Air Force, we have like 685,000 people in the Air Force. So that amount of people have already been through that.
Why don't we see more Black women represented in the Air Force?
Yeah, I think it's really, one, we're a small percentage overall. So choosing the military, we only make up about like 1-2% of the U.S. population. So it's really just deciding that this is a career for them. So the education, knowing, hey, these are opportunities out there for you. I think, one, people not knowing the opportunities, some misconceptions about it, or just experiences that they heard. I know when I was looking into joining the Air Force, my father was like, hey, I think it's good, but these are some things you need to be cognizant of. And my uncle, who's a lot older, was like anti me joining. He's like, nope, I was in he fought in the Korean War. I was in Vietnam War. He's like, nope, don't like it. They spit on me while I was in Germany. They called me out my name. Like, it was he did not have a good experience. Like,
And
he
you
went
was like,
overseas, had to come back.
sign me up.
No, I wasn't saying sign me up. It's just like my uncle he's a lot older. And so my dad had been in after him. And so he's like, things have changed. And then he also said, hey, it's definitely going to be tough, but I mean, you have what it takes. So.
Damn. So I guess it's safe to say, was your dad an influence? Like, what made you say, you know what, I'm gonna go from Howard, or I want to do the ROTC? What were you using this to pay for college, and then you just fell in love with it, or was it from watching your dad at an early age? You're like, man, that seems really cool, and you get to travel, you know?
Yeah. So
And of course,
it's
serve your
not
country.
one thing. Yes. So it wasn't one thing that sold me, but I think paying 4 years at Howard was definitely something that I appreciated.
Damn, so you're pretty ambitious. What were your grades like at Howard?
I had okay grades. I graduated magna cum laude, so
Damn,
they
what's
were all
that?
right.
What's magna cum? It's like 3.8?
Yeah, it's well, you have to
Damn.
have, I think, at least a 3 point. I think I graduated like a 3.8, but I had some higher grades before pledging Delta, but
Man, you know
I
what's
think
funny?
it
A
was
lot of Deltas that I interviewed, they like, I got my highest grades when I was pledging.
so mine was threefold. Not only was I pledging Delta, I was in ROTC, and I was also working. It was a lot. It was a lot.
Why are you doing this to yourself? Like, how are you built? What makes you so different? That you want to be working, ROTC, be a Delta, be in college? What's going on with you?
I think the thing is, like, I just realized very early that there are two things we can't control, which is the day we're born and the day we leave this earth. But what we can have some control over is like what happens in between. And for me, I just want to like enjoy or like really do as much as I can before I leave this earth. And so for me, whatever I want to do, I go after. If I want to go to this country, I'm booking a flight today because tomorrow's not promised.
Damn. So what about, what's going on in your social life at Howard? I mean, were you kicking it? Were you hanging out? Were you any fun? What's going
Was
on?
that any fun? Do I not seem like I was fun?
No, you seem like you're very focused.
Yeah, I was
Fun
very
is a bad
focused.
word because I just feel like you was like on point. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like you wasn't with the lazy stuff. You know what I'm saying? You was
yeah,
not about that life. And
yeah. No, it's definitely a balance, I think, for me.
like,
So
where
I
did
just,
maturity come from? Like I wish I had, like, one of my biggest regrets from college is that I wasn't focused until like maybe
mm,
10 years later. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not paying for it, but I think I would be a lot further ahead. And when I talk to people like you, they like had plans in college. It wasn't just like I'm going to school. Like you was like, I want to travel. I want to get to school. Like I wasn't even thinking that way. Like where does
yeah.
that come from? You know what I mean?
Uh, yeah, I think a lot of it is just my upbringing. And so I knew I was not going back home. So that was one of the things. Like, my mom never said you couldn't come back home, but I didn't want to go back home. So, like, going back to where I lived, I just knew that wasn't the goal for me. Growing up, like, I lived at West End, Atlanta, and then, like, yeah, it just was not the best situation. And I would always, it's so weird because have you seen Forrest Gump when Jenny like runs out into the field and she was like, turn me to a bird? Like, far away. I had a tree in my neighborhood. I would go sit in the tree and just like look at the planes from Hartsville, Atlanta, just flying away, or
Really?
look at birds and like, I just need to get away from here. I don't like it.
Was it like a turning point that kind of triggered that for you? That kind of said, man, I'm gonna map out my life, you know? Because for me, it wasn't until after Howard. Because I had so much fun in college, and when I got back home, it just wasn't the reality, and so I kind of had to work to create that for myself, you know. And I feel
yeah,
like with you were like working to create that, like you just had a plan, which
yeah,
I always admire people like, especially people that can identify a passion at an early age and work at it at an early age. I feel like you have
yeah.
such a head start on life. It's almost like you seeing life in slow motion.
Mm.
I mean, that's how I look at it. Because like when you watch people like Michael Jordan, or like any athlete, LeBron James, and they're like a step ahead of everybody on the court. It's like they have to see things a lot slower than everybody else to be that good, and they got to be working on it when everybody else kind of isn't. Because I'm talking to you like, yeah, my grades were okay, 3.8. I'm like, what? 3.8? I would have killed for that GPA. Like, are you serious?
I think it was like a 3 point. It was not an A. It was like
that's amazing.
7.5 or something like that. I don't know.
Man.
I think really, I mean, so now that you bring up like LeBron and MJ and stuff like that, I did play sports in high school. So for me, I say I'm lucky, and maybe he doesn't like when I say this, but my brother was the example of what not to do. So my brother was like very hard-headed. He was like in the streets, run away. I think the one thing that I realized, like one of the biggest turning points for sure, and the scariest moments for me is like when my brother was shot. I think that was like pretty deep. And I was like, I have to get the hell up out of here. Like, this place is not for me. I need to go. Like, I do not want to stay around here. And I just didn't want to be in the environment in which I was growing up in. And so I just was very focused. And like, I told my mom,
that
like,
explains it.
I'm gone.
That explains it. That explains it. Now I'm understanding where this come from, man. I mean, you're such an inspiration, man. Because not only when I look at your page, I see a woman. Okay, I don't just see the Air Force.
Yeah,
I see you kicking it.
Yeah.
Okay, and at first I was like, yo,
I have a good time.
yeah. So I don't want that to get lost. But it just seems like you was focused. And so I'm like, yo, I was just, I'm looking at your page I'm like, yo, is that the same person?
Which page do you follow?
I'm like, yeah, that's the same person. Yeah, wow.
Which page do you follow?
So you breaking down stereotypes. There's some brothers out here that's probably gonna try to sign up for the Air Force after.
You think so?
But yeah, wow. No, I mean, because you just had this idea of, oh man, if she in the Air Force, she got to be like uptight. You know what I'm saying? Super structured, super this, And I think what's cool is that you can be those things, thrive in a structured environment, but also, when it's time to unwind, I think that you've shown that you can do that. But I feel like you didn't take college for granted like a lot of people did. So what I want to talk about, so I know you're a Delta at Howard, Alpha chapter, and I always got to get that in because, you know how Howard Deltas are. You know how y'all are. But
how are we? Well, tell me, because I want to hear this.
Y'all don't play, man. You have to be correct. You have to come correct when you address Howard Deltas. And I've said this many times. Like, I remember running to the calf to go get my lunch or breakfast on a Sunday, and Sunday on the yard is dead. It's like it's like February. I'm running across the yard to go get brunch. I run across the Delta plot. I didn't even know it was a Delta plot. It's just a yard to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just grass to me. I'm a civilian.
Yeah.
This girl grabs my arm. Do you know what you just did? I'm like, what? I'm like, it's 10 minutes before the calf closed. What are you talking about? She gave me this whole lecture on where I can't walk at on the yard.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. But, I was a campus pal at Howard. I was in a bunch of organizations. So I know, like I said, y'all lay it down. But
I think I'm a little bit more laid back than that. I don't know. I would have, like, he's going by his way. He's trying to eat, do your thing, man. It is what it is. People make mistakes.
She was like 5 feet, 100 pounds too. Ready. I was like, yo, I'm sorry. All right. I didn't even know what I was apologizing for, but I just didn't want no problems with her. and I wanted an omelet too. But
oh my goodness.
So Delta, man, what made you decide to be a Delta?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it was just the women in my life growing up were Deltas. I wanted to, for sure. So I was actually offered an opportunity to go to the Air Force Academy in the Navy. I went to them and I'm like, change. What are you looking to do with your life if you're looking to be surrounded? And I didn't meet my sister until the 9th grade, and we didn't become like best friends until after college. It wasn't until I pledged and I felt like I learned how to be a sister to other women.
You didn't
Yeah,
meet
I
your
know.
sister?
Yeah, I know. It's
Your
deep.
biological sister?
Yep.
You can't be saying stuff like that and then be like, only got 45 minutes to do this interview.
Listen, my
You
dad,
can't be
well, the
doing
thing,
that.
it's pretty crazy. But anyway, I just was surrounded by Deltas growing up. Really, just two were extremely influential in my life. One being my cousin. She went to, and that's why I went to Howard, is because she went to Grambling undergrad and she pledged Delta. I had no idea what like Deltas were before then, but she just kept saying like, oh, you're going to have to like join Delta, be a Delta gym. We didn't have it in my area. And then my science teacher, who also went to Grambling, who knew my cousin because they both crossed at Grambling. And she's like, oh my goodness. So it was very interesting. And I think the reason why I wanted to become one is like my cousin would always push it, but it was this one moment where my grandmother died when I was in high school, and I was in Miss Beasley's class, and I was having a hard time with it. And I came back, she said, you know what, I'm going to invite you over to my house. My sisters are coming over. And I didn't know that they were her sorors at the time. She just said sisters. And they just talked about their experience overcoming, you know, losing a loved one and stuff like that. And we had just like a day with just us and me. I was the focus. And I was like, oh, this is so amazing to be surrounded by all of these amazing women. And they were like bosses doing in their own rights. And so I knew that I had a sister, but we weren't really close. But I wanted to kind of establish a sisterhood. And I'm like, if I'm going to pick my sisters, they're going to be bosses. So I wanted lawyers, doctors, women who were change makers in my life. So I just want to be a part of an organization where I can reach out to. And these are women who are, you know, groundbreaking and like, you know, change makers. And then also too, Deltas are popping. Like who didn't want to be a Delta? The Deltas were running the yard at all times. So I'm like, oh, I want to be like them.
Damn, that's dope. That's dope. I mean, that's crazy to set that goal for yourself, you know, like to be a woman that's a boss. And now you look back and like, you know, because when every Delta comes through Howard, they're gonna have to learn about you. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna have to learn about you in some way, shape, or form. You know,
Yeah, true.
you know that, and I think that's pretty cool. What was it like to come out? I mean, the probate. What was that?
So I actually was on a line that did not get to probate
Oh
actually.
man, that
I
sucks.
know, it sucked.
Damn.
So it was more so like we kind of like walked out on campus and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then we still had like proselyte back then. So I know it kind of sucked,
Damn.
but we still had our own little revealing. Like even now, I think, you know, this year was definitely tough for the Greeks on the yard
What was that
because
like though to not be able to? Because you know, not that you join and become a Delta for that moment, but that's your Beyonce moment. You know what I'm saying? That's a big moment to stunt on everybody and to get
yeah, if you look
support
at
from
it
all of
that
your
way,
sisters.
I think
And
it was
it's a good
disappointing.
moment to shine in front of all your sisters, you know, because when you come out on the yard, when Deltas come out, all the sororities,
Yeah,
it
we come
be
out.
it be sorors that's 100 years old out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
for
what's
sure.
like what's
It's
good?
definitely a special occasion for sure. And it was disappointing to hear like it wouldn't happen, or we still had our own little coming out the way we did. It wasn't like our typical probate show. But what I was just happy is that like, you know, I was able to cross the burning sands and I had, you know, had 42 sisters. So I was just appreciative, like, hey, I've pledged a sorority, it was a goal of mine. It was for me. It wasn't for everyone else. I think the probate is definitely for you. Like you said, an opportunity for the chapter to reveal the new women in the organization and for the
Mm-hmm.
campus to see who they are. But at the same time, this was more so for me. So I was like, great. I achieved my goal, which was joining a sorority. Now
Man,
it's time to get to work.
wow, you're so humble. That's crazy. Were you involved in anything else on campus at all?
Yeah, I actually was. So like I told you, my brother was shot when I was in high school. I also lost my cousin at a very young age. She was murdered. And
Yeah.
one of
I'm
the
sorry to
things
hear that.
that,
My condolences to your cousin.
it's okay. Thank you for that. But one of the things I was very involved in was alternative spring break. And so my freshman year, when I came to Howard, they were doing ASB and New Orleans, and my family, my mom's side is from Gulfport, so they were affected by Hurricane Katrina. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this. I want to be a part of service, be a part of this. My family was affected, so I did ASB in my senior year. I led like the group to Chicago, which was pretty dope as well.
Nice.
So I did that, ROTC, and that's pretty much it. I think I was involved with like chapel, but nothing like too serious.
Okay. I mean, that's still cool though. I mean, you definitely want to mention those things because I think they help shape you, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's an awesome experience. So when you get out of Howard, this is what year when you graduate?
2011.
So you graduate 2011, and are you
Yeah.
headed? You're headed straight to the Air Force at this point?
Yes. So I graduated in May. I commissioned in May, meaning I said, "Hey, I'm going to join the Air Force." I did a commissioning ceremony,
Wow.
and then it was May, and I think I started in July. So it was very very short. Had like a
Man,
month
was
off.
it? And I know you kind of had like your foot, like one foot in there because you're at Howard, and then going back and forth. But was it a culture shock at all? Like once you were like really in it on a day-to-day basis?
I would say once I moved to Delaware. So my first job, I was a recruiter, and I was stationed at the University of Maryland. And so I still was living in the apartment I lived in when I was at Howard my senior year. I eventually moved like up Georgia Avenue. I was still taking the train. I still around my friends and stuff like that. So I was still connected to the Howard community. So I felt like, and I wasn't in, like my job was a lot of outreach. So I wasn't like connected to an office as much, like going in every day. I didn't have a lot of oversight. My supervisor lived in another city. So I felt like I was still connected to Howard. Then when I moved to Delaware, like literally when I was driving to Delaware, on my way moving, I was behind an Amish buggy, and I was like, oh, okay, this is different.
Damn.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I'm not in DC anymore. This is a
Was
different
it? Were
life.
there days where you just would never see a black person, or am I stretching
Well,
it?
my supervisor, no, you're stretching it. My
Okay.
supervisor,
Okay.
he was
Just
right
just
there.
want to
No.
ask.
No, I think so. I think that comes into play when I moved overseas. So I think one of the biggest cultural shocks or differences that I've ever noticed is I lived in Germany. So I was in Frankfurt, Germany, in
Damn.
Frankfurt, right? Like I left Frankfurt, and then I had a red eye, went straight into Atlanta. And I went from like Germany to Atlanta, which is like the Black Mecca, right? Like
Yeah, for
it
sure.
was like I got on the plane. I think I was the only one on the plane. And then when I arrived in Atlanta, I'm like, oh, my family, here we are. I'm home.
Wow, man. So is is dating tough when you're busy like this and all over the world?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it is. It's definitely tough. But I've had some very successful relationships.
They
Um,
bow down, huh? I know that's right.
it's just difficult. I think, and it all depends on what you want. You have to find someone who understands your life. And I found that my friends always say, like, you're a very attractive woman, and your lifestyle is somewhat attractive until you realize what it truly is. And it's hard for people to kind of like sign up for that. And then, guys overall too, whether they want a woman to follow them or just adjusting. Yeah, it's a
That's
thing.
real. I mean,
It's
can
a thing.
are you the type? Are you the boss at home too? Or
No, no, I think that's a huge misconception. And I
Mhm.
say that because I am in a leadership position where I lead, and I go in, I have airmen who are under me who are looking up to me for direction and guidance. I provide direction and guidance to my commander. And I'm in such a I would say important role, and I'm giving out guidance and direction. When I go home, I just want to relax. Just want
Mm,
to relax.
yeah, I feel you. I feel you. I'm just asking, being nosy.
I see.
You like, damn, that wasn't on the question list.
Oh,
But
sorry.
no problem. I mean, what was it like going in the under Obama? You black, you got a black president. I don't know how you vote, but what was that like at the time? You know?
Yeah, I think it was extremely inspirational, right? He came to Howard University when I was a freshman, and then he was elected. So I was pretty inspired by him. One of the individuals that I look up to the most is Michelle. So just being able to follow them and see them is definitely something that um, I enjoy, them and their administration for sure.
That's cool. That's cool. I know you got to toe the line, but but I think that's cool. I mean, because you come into the Air Force under this, I guess this with the black person kind of being the, what do they call it, the chief and the,
It's the commander in chief.
yeah, the commander in chief. My bad.
Yeah.
You come in with the black person being commander in chief, black Democrat, and now we find ourselves in a situation where America is just in a totally different, the world is in a totally different space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How does that feel? Knowing that you have to serve the country, and you're a black woman, and you kind of have to serve whoever the commander in chief is, whether you agree with their politics or not.
Yeah.
Is that something that is difficult for people in your position?
So I would say it could be for some individuals, but we all have that one right, which is to go out and vote. And so that's your opportunity to say who you want to be in office, potentially influence who the commander in chief is. But it doesn't matter who is in that position. Our mission, our goal, and what we do in the Air Force, what I do, doesn't direction on where the country is going. And it's not just a one decision. It's something that has to be made by all military leadership.
Tell me about these awards you got, because you got some hardware.
Oh my goodness.
Tell me about those.
I don't know what you're looking at. I guess just in my bio.
I'm looking at the Meritorious Service Medal with one oak leaf cluster. What is that? That's a lot of syllables, and I don't know what that means.
So essentially what happens is whenever you complete an assignment, you are giving a medal for the service that or whatever you did in that assignment. So those were given to me while I was overseas. So the service I did where there was in Turkey and in Germany. No, I actually think those came from Germany and Korea.
So what does that mean by complete an assignment? Like a mission?
Not necessarily a mission, just a actual, I don't know how to compare it to someone in the civil. I guess I'm assigned to a specific job for a certain amount of time. And so overall, I'm a public affairs officer in the Air Force. I'm at the rank of captain right now. And so right now I'm assigned to the Thunderbirds. So I'm a public affairs officer for the Thunderbirds, and my commitment to the Thunderbirds is 2 years, right? So I'll be here for 2 years. I'll move and go to another job. And I know it's very different, and that's one of the reasons why I joined the military, because my dad was like, I was on a different carrier every other year. I moved here. And my mom, she had pretty much the same job her entire life, same office, same people. And I'm just like, man, I cannot do this. I definitely want to go and travel. So the jobs that you see are pretty much like, I had an assignment.
Lieutenant? Is that what it's next? A first lieutenant?
No, major. So I've been selected for major, but I will not pin on major until next year.
Major, then lieutenant colonel. Is that next?
Yes. Lieutenant colonel.
Okay. Man, what does it feel like when you walk in a room and everybody like?
Well, people do not salute inside. You salute outside.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I just thought it was so cool to walk in the room and like the people that are inferior to you, they gotta do that.
Not inferior.
Not
inferior.
And you just
they're lower ranking than you.
There's
definitely some protocol and procedures, right? Whenever a higher ranking officer comes in, you stand up as a show of respect. If you're walking past them outside, you salute them. You return the salute and render it back to the lower ranking individual.
But you don't have to, right?
But I don't have to?
Yes, to the lower ranks, you can just get them a nod like, what up?
No, you should definitely return the salute. No, you return the salute. You return the salute.
Okay. No, I mean, I think that's one of the dopest things, in movies when they be on 10 like that, like saluting each other.
They stand up and salute and stuff like that.
Is that how it is?
Where they stand up and salute?
Yeah, anytime somebody like that comes in a room, you gotta salute them like that.
No, you do not have to salute inside, but it's protocol to just stand up. So if a higher ranking officer comes in, you stand up and greet them and address them.
Also, when you was a Delta, you learned all this stuff. The Air Force was nothing.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, Howard prepared me, whether it was my ROTC training, Delta, or whatever, just the Howard hustle, right? Just trying to make it at Howard teaches you how to be tenacious and going after things and stuff like that.
I have a question. What about like, you know how like we're watching all of this stuff that takes place right now on TV. It's like
Yeah.
civil unrest in America. In in the Air Force, if your superior, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, or you're a
It's
higher ranking official says you got to do this and it's something that you think is wrong or unethical, do you have to follow through with it? Like how does that
so
work?
yeah, so if you're given an order, typically you have to carry out that order.
Wow.
That is the expectation. But it really depends on where you are and what you're
How do
doing.
you
So I
how do
can
you
give you,
express a disagreement? Like, sir, I, like how do you like?
I think, yeah, so I think what you're envisioning is like we're in wartime and we're out on the front line, like go jump over and do this. That
Yeah,
is
like
for
kill all them
what
babies
I
over
do.
there. Kill all them babies. You
No,
like,
no,
sir?
no, 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 no. That's not
Okay.
the case. No, that is not what we're doing here at all. But at least for me and my job, I've had similar situations. So like it is very different than what you probably envision, especially in public affairs. Like I've assigned
Mhm.
someone, hey, I want you to cover this event. And they didn't
Oh.
necessarily agree with it or didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so they just said, hey, can this be reassigned? And we talked about it, we discussed it. And in order to for the event to get coverage or for this individual to be comfortable, I reassigned it. It made sense to me. So what I've found, at least in the military, especially some of the things that you're given, you can provide that feedback and there's some dialogue with your leadership on that. War is a lot different. And even the pilots, right? Like when they're in the air, they have to make a decision where they're going to drop a bomb on the target. They're typically communicating down, to someone on the ground saying, hey, is this a proper target? And if it is the right target, they'll go. If they don't feel comfortable making that, that's a decision that they can make. It doesn't happen all the time, but there is a little bit of like, not necessarily negotiation, because if you're given an order, you expect to carry it out, but there's an opportunity for you to provide feedback to your leadership. At least in my office and how I conduct business, it's definitely a two-way street here because I'm here to lead you and provide guidance, but I also expect for my airmen to provide feedback to me.
So generally, like if it's a if it's war, it's like don't question me kind of thing. But if it's in another setting where it's like business, feedback is kind of it's cool to get feedback.
Yeah, I think it's always good to get feedback, no matter where you are. But yeah, an order, it's really tough to say, and it's really situational. It really depends on the situation.
Hmm.
But I think everything that I've experienced so far, especially when I've given something my airman didn't necessarily agree, I've always tried to have an open door policy where they can come to me and say, hey, I have an issue with this, or I don't, or feel this way, and be able to express themselves and say, hey, I don't feel comfortable. And so what I want is for it. And if, hey, I can also say, hey, I understand your feelings, because at some point you do have to put your feelings aside and conduct a mission. So I've had moments where we had to do that. And then moments where you said, thanks for the feedback. I respect your opinion and how you feel, and we can accommodate elsewhere. We can make adjustments.
Wow, that seems anti to what I've, like the stereotype of what how you think something like that would get resolved. That's tough, man. So how can you fight for a country and recruit for a country that has historically disenfranchised Black people?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a position to be in, but we have to understand that like it's historically, right? If we want to be a part of, like if you want to change it, you have to be a part of it. And
Mm.
this is my part, right? Is showing and speaking and telling my experience, and saying, hey, this is an opportunity for Black women. I've been here, I've been through it. Will it be tough? Yeah, any position, any organization you're a part of, the road is not going to be easy. But if you join this organization, these are the goods, these are the bads, right? And for me, the good has outweighed the bad in the Air Force overall. And so it has been a fit for
Wow.
me. So I can be a part of this because I can tell my story and my experience and say, hey, this is what I've been through. This is what I experienced. This is what you can get out of it. And if it's the right fit for another young girl, which I've met several of them, like, hey, I want to be a part of an organization, be myself. I want to be a part of the military. I want to serve my country, or I want to travel. I want to do all of these things or things that you have done. And this is just an avenue. And so, and regardless of, I talk to girls around the world, and the goal is definitely, like we say, our mission is to recruit, retain, and inspire. But for me, it's just to inspire them to be their best and go after their goal or whatever it is that they want to achieve. And so whether it's my journey in the Air Force telling them, or whatever, path they choose to take, I hope they can take something from my story and, apply it to their lives to make their situation better. So it's a historical thing. And I know I stand on that truth. We recognize that truth. That is something that has happened. And I say this very carefully because it's hard to say, like, you know, where we were 10 years ago, we're not there. But there's a truth to that. Like, we have seen change. Has there been the change that maybe we wanted, the pace that we wanted? No. But there are people who had to go into spaces that they're not comfortable with to help us make that change. And I'm willing to do that.
That's a good point, man. And shout out to you for taking on that type of responsibility, because that's tough. That's really tough. A few more questions.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. I mean, there was no Me Too movement back when you got in the Air Force. Obviously, my thought is that they want to try to treat everybody the same or
in the Air Force,
equal, or in the Air Force. At least that's what my thought is. I don't know. I mean, but of course, I'm sure everybody's treated differently to a certain extent because you're only human. But how has that affected you since that has gained so much notoriety over these last year or two?
Yeah, so I think that it has definitely opened up my eyes to something that I wasn't necessarily familiar with personally. And so I knew that people were dealing with this. It was definitely an experience for a lot of women, some of my friends, but in the workplace, for me, I think it took me a while before I even had to deal with a situation surrounding sexual assault. Who, me personally?
Yeah.
No, I have not had a situation revolving around sexual assault in the military. That hasn't been my experience. But I know friends, and a friend, I'm not going to tell her story, but it was actually something before the military, but it was a resource that the military provided to her that addressed those issues that she was dealing with. And so what people don't know, and I don't know what civilian world and what organizations of corporate America, other organizations have to address this. I know a lot of people go to the human resource manager, but on every base, we have what we call a sexual assault response coordinator. And we have several options for the airmen. When you come to base, when you move to a new assignment, when you join the military, they brief you on sexual assault, right? They address it. They say, hey, this is something that could potentially happen to you on or off duty by another military member or someone else. If this happens, here are your options, and this is what we can do for you to help you deal with those situations. And I appreciate that because I think there are some people who may not have those options and don't know what to do when something like that happens. I think the military does a great job of preparing people for potential crises or situations. And so, at least for my friend, this was a situation that happened to her when she was in college, but then understanding or learning about sexual assault response coordinators and those options that you can go and tell and talk to someone if this happens to you. And then these are the resources that we have for you to deal with those things, whether it's investigating the situation where we can look into it and hold this individual accountable, or we can get you the help that you need personally, whether it's counseling, talking through this, whatever services are available.
So you feel like the military has been proactive with cracking down on that stuff?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
That's good to hear.
But does it happen? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are a small subgroup of society for the rest of the world. And so whatever you imagine happens in the world is going to probably happen in the military or some form or fashion, because we're picking out citizens, different people from all the walks of life to join the military. And I will at least say from my experience coming in, I was briefed that sexual assault, hey, this has been an issue in the military. This is how we're addressing it. If this happens to you, this is what you can do. And I respect any organization that says, hey, this is a problem. This is a solution. This is what we're working towards here. Our goal is definitely to have, 0 cases, right? We don't want this to happen at all. But if it does happen, and they provided education at the beginning, right? Right when I came in, hey, this is what you need to know. These are things that you should know. We've done research in the Air Force. This is what we've seen. This is what we've seen typically happens to individuals, whether it's male, females. We have a lot of training on different things. I think we talked about this a little bit too this week, is the military is a little different because it gets way more into your life than a lot of other organizations, because we take the family aspect very seriously. Because we're asking parents to, hey, give me your son or your daughter to be a part of the military and fight for our country. Could potentially be a wartime situation where they're on the front lines. And I'm asking you to sign this waiver, you know, when they're 17, to come and join me and follow me to defend our country. Now, that's an easy ask. And so if we ask anybody to sign up volunteer, I think the military has done a great job of providing resources to address some things. Despite what I think a lot of people may know, once you're on the inside, you see all these things that happen, but on the outside, it's communicated well that, hey, these are things that we actually address, that we take very seriously.
So you feel like your voice is heard even beyond just the whole Me Too thing. You know, you do feel like a vital member of the team, you know, in your experience with the military.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think even now in this situation, right? Like everything that's going on, you know, I understand who I am, what I look like, and what I bring to the table. People just want to hear my experience, and for this to be brought up saying, hey, this is a situation.
Wow.
A lot of people said, hey, this has not been my experience. I don't understand what you're going through, but can you share that with me? Do you feel comfortable sharing that with me? What can we do to bring about change so it's comfortable towards a better situation, better workplace, better work environment for people like you who will come after you? I really appreciate the opportunity to do that.
How does it feel for like Black people to kind of gravitate towards you, or women to gravitate towards you and feel comfortable with asking you for advice, you know, about certain things, you know? And I'm sure probably even women that probably have no intentions of going to the military, you know, look up to you. I mean, how does that feel?
It's an absolute honor, honestly, is to like have this opportunity to be in a position where I can share my experience, give advice to other women, to the younger generation, and help shape them as early as possible, really. I think, again, mentors were extremely instrumental into my life and who I am and shaping me early on. So I'm honored to be in that in that position to help people going forward. Like, you have to reach back and pull forward. It's the only way we're going to continue to advance.
Nice. So tell me some of the things you got going on right now that you're working on, like maybe day in the life, or, you know, some interesting stuff that you can talk about.
So interesting stuff, like I would say we talked enough about work. We just did all the flyovers, so that was nice. It was an honor to be a part of that. The salute to healthcare workers. People are working extremely hard on the front line, so that was nice. Personally, so I bought a house this year, and I'm still trying to get my house together. Thank you. I served, like we talked about this a little bit, but I was overseas most of my career. So I've been about 8 years, so 6.5. I lived outside the country, so I was extremely happy.
Best place you've been to?
Best place I've been to overall?
Yeah.
It's so hard. I do not have like one, but I will always cherish my experience in Botswana. I absolutely love it, but I also love Trinidad and Tobago, Spain, Italy. They're all on the list. It's hard. It's hard to pick one.
Man. So you bought a house.
Getting my house together. You know, we can't leave and go anywhere. Oh, one thing I would like to plug, just a personal thing that I do, or I started last year, is that I have an HBCU scholarship. So I have an HBCU scholarship. It's only for my high school. I gave away 2 scholarships last year, and the individuals went to Morehouse and Spelman. And so I received, I think last year we received 5 applicants. I received 7 this year. So it's slowly growing, and I'm pretty happy about it, which means that individuals from my high school are looking to go to HBCUs. And if I can be a part of like helping them get there, it's a huge
What high school was this?
So I went to Douglas County High School in Douglasville, Georgia.
Douglas. How far is that from Atlanta?
Like 20 minutes.
Okay. You said it's close to the airport?
No, it's not close to where I grew up. When I was a lot younger, we moved in around Atlanta, and then we moved again outside of Atlanta. So it's also too, I will also say this, and another reason why we moved outside Atlanta is because we lived in government housing for a long time, and then my mom applied for Habitat for Humanity to get a house, and we actually were selected. And so we got a house, we built our house, and we lived in a Habitat home. I grew up there. It was in Douglasville. So it was definitely like a very unique experience for me. That's why for me, it's a huge deal that I became a homeowner, because I just took my mom, I think, a long time because of her situation to get there, and she needed assistance. So for me to be able to buy this house and my mom be a part of the process, it's like a huge thing for me. So yeah, getting my house together. I was planning trips before all this craziness happened with COVID and changing of our schedule and stuff like that. But
has COVID impacted how y'all do business?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we typically do air shows. So we are typically on the road like 245 days out of the year.
Whoa!
Look
Are
at
you
your
serious?
face.
Wait, you on the road 245 days out the year?
Yeah, it's a lot, right?
That's why you were saying it was socially it's tough, but you can make it work. Damn, 245 days? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a very tough schedule. So we are on the road from March into November, just traveling the U.S. doing air shows. And our schedule is pretty hectic. We leave on Thursday. We do a practice show on Friday. Saturday, Sunday are the shows. Return on Monday. We do admin work, get ready for the next show. My only off day was Wednesday, but it's changed. So a lot of shows canceled because of COVID-19. So now I have a normal work schedule.
Wow. So what city are you living in?
Las Vegas.
Oh, okay, cool. In Vegas. I interviewed a few people from in Vegas. This episode is sponsored by homecoming@howard.com, the #1 homecoming event website for alumni and friends. Created by Howard alumni for alumni and friends. Subscribe now at www.homecoming@howard.com and never miss an update. You need to definitely write a book. I'm putting that out there.
Write a book?
Absolutely. Definitely need to write
You think
a book.
so?
Definitely need to write a book. You definitely need to do some motivational speaking for sure.
Oh, wow.
I definitely think that you need to get into that game. I definitely think you could get into politics if that's something you want to do. But
I'm
not
not
business
into
too.
politics.
You're gonna get forced. It's gonna be one of those things where you get forced into it. Somebody's gonna call you and appoint you to a position.
I don't know about that.
I
don't know about it.
You got an amazing story. So what advice do you have for a little girl that's coming to Howard that is like you? They come from humble beginnings, but they want to achieve something that's bigger than them. They want to have a great time at Howard and they want to achieve greatness after Howard. What advice do you have for that person?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that it's possible, whatever it is that you want to do. But you have to really take advantage of the time that you have at Howard University and the resources that you have. So make friends with your peers, get to know the staff there, take advantage of all of the opportunities, the speakers who come by, hustle, right? Figure out whatever it is you want to do. And if it changes at any point in Howard, I changed my major 3 times, right? It doesn't matter, just get after it. Be diligent, work hard, and connections is everything. Who you know is very, very important. And so definitely work hard, figure out what you want to do, surround yourself with great people who are going to uplift you. But at the same time, enjoy your experience because you will never have an opportunity to be in a place where, at least that has been my experience, you're the majority and you're just living and enjoying and being in a culture in which you're extremely comfortable with, right? Mm-hmm. So just enjoy Howard and this utopia in which, at the Mecca.
Man, yeah, that was, you hit that on the head. It was great times at Howard. What about, when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? Because I think about the position in which I'm in now, right? And the position where I have an opportunity to inspire young girls. And so if there's at least one person who said, hey, because of her, I did, or I can, someone can believe in themselves because they had an opportunity to just hear my story, take something from it, apply it to their life, and become whoever it is they want to be, I think that would definitely be an honor. And then I want my legacy to be one of giving, right? This world, like I said, I want to achieve as much as I can, but it's bigger than myself. And so I want to help someone else get whatever it is they want to achieve in life or give them an opportunity. And so that's why I have the scholarship. That's why I applied for this job to be in this position so I can share my experience, my knowledge to help someone achieve theirs.
Man, that's great. That's great. Captain Remoshay Nelson, thank you so much for being on the show. I
You're
truly,
welcome.
Remoshay R. Nelson, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, when I saw you, I was like, damn, I gotta have her on here. I know your story is so unique. And
Wow.
I hope that you had a good time and I can have you on again because I can only see you doing bigger and better things, man. So thank you. If if somebody has questions or wants to get in touch with you, to ask you some stuff about, I guess something professional about life or whatever, how would they do?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is really my Instagram account. So for my work account is AF Thunderbird 12.
Got it. AF Thunderbird 12.
Thunderbird 12.
Wow, we got a Thunderbird. We have a real life Thunderbird. So what's next? What's next for you? What are we saying about you in 10 years?
So in 10 years, that's really difficult. People ask me all the time. I just got into this position. And so I'm really focused
And
on
already they like, what's next?
yeah. It was like, what are you doing next? Right. And it's so funny because I think you hit, the nail on the head when you're like, hey, you were the girl who had the plan and you were going out. I was. And then like I hit like 5-6 years. And I'm like, I achieved a lot of things I wanted to achieve. Like, what's next? And I really just been taking it. Like, Korea was like a last minute decision. Applying for this job was one as well. And so I haven't really thought about like the next assignment, but I know in 10 years, I definitely want to continue to be in a position that inspires others. I get that opportunity to share my story and to help someone else. And so as long as I can be in a position to do that, whether it's in the military or outside of that, I think I will be satisfied.
It's crazy because you have these goals for yourself, and then you finally get that goal, and then the pressure comes in to like achieve a higher height or even just to
Yeah, to keep going.
maintain it. Like
Yes.
even the maintenance of it, just to, does that ever become hard just to maintain being Captain Nelson or Remoshay, because I'm sure when you go back to your family, they like, damn, you come back to your sorors, they like, yo, is that ever like problematic for you? Do you feel like, yo, it's not that big of a deal, y'all? Like, chill.
No, I think my family keeps me extremely humbled, especially my little brother. He is a little brother, what you would imagine one will be, and so he is extremely hilarious. He calls me by like my childhood nickname. He makes up nicknames for me. I had when I was at Howard, I had like a fade back,
A fade.
Yes, I had a fade. I had a fade.
I gotta go look at your timeline.
Oh, it's not on
Crazy.
there. It's not on there. It's not on there. But I have a picture. I can send it to you. But I had a fade when I was at Howard. And so he called me Little Bill, but he still calls me Little Bill. And I had an afro, and I think I had an afro and all that stuff. So whenever he's like, hey, Little Bill. But I think the best compliment I ever received was like one from my family. Like, you're just the same Misha that we knew back in the day. And so like you have not necessarily changed who you are at your core, but you just evolved professionally and into the woman that you're in. So I really appreciate that. And I like make it an effort, at least for myself, is really to just continue to like stay grounded in who I am. Never forget where I come from, who my family is. Like when I go back, we do the same thing that we used to do. We play spades. Like I still roller skate. That's something I do now. Like I get out on my roller skates and go out and have a good time. And kick it with my family. We listen to the same music that we used to back in the day, R&B, all of that good stuff. So I appreciate that. And my line sisters, they're all amazing. And so we just keep each other grounded. Yeah. And we try not to we praise each other when we do something great, but we try unless it's helping each other out, talk about work, it's just really a check-in, like, hey girl, how are you? What's going on with you as the individual?
That's awesome. Do you have time for Jeopardy and Rapid Fire?
Oh my goodness. All right. What's Rapid Fire? What's Jeopardy?
Jeopardy is just Howard questions, Howard history.
Oh my God. No, we're not going to play that one because I'm not good at that one.
and
what's Rapid Fire?
Rapid Fire is just, I say words and you say the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh, okay. So we could try that one.
All right, we'll do Rapid Fire. So it might
when
be
I come back, we'll do Jeopardy when I come back on here.
Perfect. All right. So real easy stuff. U Street or Adams Morgan?
U Street.
Is homecoming better as
I watch Patty Boom Boom like every weekend. Like I love Patty Boom Boom. Like you can't.
who?
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
What you
Patty
love who?
Boom Boom. Oh God. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. No. Keep going. U Street. It's U Street. Go.
Is homecoming better as an alum or as a student?
Alum.
Okay, you got to start one, you got to bench one, you got to cut one. Land, sea, or air?
You said start one, cut one, and what was the other one? Bench one?
Bench one.
Oh God. I feel like there's something under this whole thing and I have no idea what it is. I'm extremely oblivious to what this concept is overall, so it's probably very terrible. So
because that's Army, it's Army, Air Force, and Navy, right?
Start one,
bench one, cut one.
Cut one. Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'll cut C. So I enjoy swimming, but I am scared of like deep ocean. I'm good on that. Cut. I love air, so I'll start that, and then bench one is earth.
Got it. Good one.
Or land.
Okay. Next one. Howard men don't cheat. What's your response to that? You're supposed to say fact.
Oh, is that what I was supposed to say?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's what everyone has said since they've come on the show. I mean, it's the one
Have
thing.
Have you only had Howard men on this show?
It's the one thing everybody agrees on. Next
question.
Really? Thank you for your honest assessment and agreements with everyone else.
I did not agree to that.
Best Howard experience.
Ooh, best Howard experience. That's so hard. I have so many like amazing. Well, so I'm a little different. I would probably say my ASB experience, probably my best Howard experience.
Your ASP?
ASB, alternative spring break.
Oh, nice. See, I think this says a lot about who you are at heart. I think that's dope. What's the next question? When did you first learn to say no?
Very early.
Pretty early?
Yeah, probably like 3 o'clock. I mean, I don't know, 3 years old. I don't know.
Cool.
Very early.
When did you first realize that you were the shit?
Oh wow. Probably when I received my first scholarship for college.
Nice.
I'm like, okay, you know what? It was a very tough one. I had interviews, several rounds. I'm like, okay, you're actually going somewhere. You got this.
Dope.
You're all right. You're all right.
Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan.
Would you rather get the Medal of Honor, the Navy Cross, or the Distinguished Service Cross?
Probably the Medal of Honor.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Nelson. She avoided the Jeopardy, but that's cool. But thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.